Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? Are you ready for some fresh drama? Today's first story is about favoritism and how OP's father-in-law favors her husband's brother over OP's husband. Listen to the story to find out how, and what are my thoughts on the situation. And also, just an inspiration for today, guys. If someone treats you like crap, just remember there is something wrong with them, not you. Normal people don't go around destroying other human beings. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My husband's grandma died in the early 2000s. She owned a tiny house with no mortgage. Immediately after her death, I think before the funeral, my brother-in-law and his then-girlfriend moved into the house. My father-in-law is the executor of Grandma's will, but to this day has never filed the paperwork to probate the will. My brother-in-law and his now wife and their 2 kids continue to live in this house for free. My husband has asked my father-in-law several times over the years about this house and who owns it, and every time he would get angry and either say, "Don't worry about it," or "I own it." My husband and I have long suspected that Grandma left all or part ownership of the house to him, and that's why father-in-law hasn't probated the will. This house has been a major source of contention with the family, and is the primary reason my husband has no contact with brother-in-law. Other reasons too, but this is the big one. Brother-in-law and his wife are in their 40s and have never paid rent. They go on vacations and have a BMW. My brother-in-law has every video game console and toy gadget you could imagine. My husband confronted his dad again about the house, and surprisingly, he admitted Grandma left the house to both my husband and brother-in-law, and immediately offered us money to buy my husband out of the house. He got very nasty and argumentative with my husband about the house's value, and refused to get a CMA. They tentatively agreed upon a low number, but my husband told him he was going to get a CMA. We've talked about it, and I don't want to take his dad's money. Father-in-law's plan is to buy us out of the house with his own money, guilted my husband that he's going to be hurting by doing this, and in return, we would sign away our rights to the house. Additionally, we got the CMA, and the house is worth significantly more than the value my father-in-law is giving. So we would get less than half the value of the house, and my brother-in-law would get the full value. This does not seem fair to me. Also, my father-in-law said he would be deducting the money he gives us for our portion of his estate. So now we are losing out twice. My father-in-law thinks I'm the a-hole because I'm the one who has made all this an issue, and my husband wants what's fair and sees my side, but thinks it would be easier to just take the money. I don't think I'm the a-hole because I want my father-in-law to do things properly and probate the will and deed it to my husband and brother-in-law to sell, or for him to buy us out of the house. Well, OP's husband needs to get a lawyer ASAP. Failure to probate the will within a timely manner is a criminal offense. OP's brother-in-law has been living rent-free for nearly 20 years. OP's husband is entitled to half of the value of the house, plus penalties. OP and her husband should not let them get away with it. In my opinion, if OP does nothing, father-in-law will cheat her husband again by cutting him out of his estate. I think OP's father-in-law doesn't love OP's husband, so sadly, there's no relationship to ruin. I think they at least sit down with a lawyer and discuss further options before rolling over for a lower amount of money. The father-son relationship is toast anyways. Aya404 says, feels like this is going to pretty much total relations with that side of the family if your husband actually wants his inheritance. Options right now appear to be, accept less than half actual value from father-in-law now, get same amount removed from later inheritance from him. This basically gives up more than his inheritance from his grandmother. Leave things as they are. No contact brother-in-law gets free house. This gives up your husband's inheritance from his grandmother. Speak with a lawyer about forcing the will to be executed properly. Imagine this might well see him cut out a father-in-law's will entirely. On the flip side, 50% of the property is his for sure, and you'd imagine there'd be a fair argument for over a decade's worth of rental payments for the use that brother-in-law has had. Half of whatever a regular market rental would be, considering that ownership has been deliberately stalled and withheld. Potentially costly and drawn out, if it looks like they'll lose brother-in-law and family may cut corners on maintenance, i.e. trash the place too. Bit of a no-win scenario really. And honestly, it's your husband's call on how much he cares about his relationship with family as to which way to go. Personally, I'd be speaking to the lawyer on principle. Not the a-hole though. Father-in-law is being very deliberately shady about failing to execute the will. Outside Question says, not the a-hole. They are cheating you out of your inheritance. Unfortunately, you're going to lose something in this, because I suspect if you push to get the house, which you are owed, your father-in-law will write you out of the will and give your brother-in-law your husband's share because he needs it more. Tinkerific says, not the a-hole. Sounds like it's time to visit a lawyer. I know that's going to cause problems, but your father-in-law is not doing his job and creating a problem. Backstory. When my daughter, Georgia, was 13, her mother and I divorced. I didn't want to uproot Georgia, therefore they kept the house, and I moved into a nearby apartment. My ex was a stay-at-home mom. I continued paying all the bills for 2 years. Currently, I'm still paying only the mortgage. Georgia is now 17 and resides with her mother. 16 months ago, I met my now girlfriend. During that time, I purchased a house to get out of my apartment. My girlfriend moved in a few months back. Prior to that, I introduced her to Georgia. As I expected, she had a very whatever attitude. I understand changes such as these are hard for kids to cope with. Since the divorce, Georgia could come and go as she pleased. Since my girlfriend moved in, though, Georgia became obnoxious with constantly trying to run her off and humiliate her. The first incident. Georgia came home one afternoon while I was at work to say when she got home from school the previous day, I was coming out of her mother's bedroom. She knew this was not true, as I had been with her that entire day. I sat Georgia down for a serious reality check. Georgia was apparently snooping through our mail. She saw my girlfriend's date of birth. For the record, we're 13 years apart, both divorced with kids. Georgia asked my girlfriend, "So what do you see in my dad? A caregiver?" Early one Saturday morning, she came over while we were still sleeping. She had brought empty Depends underwear boxes and stacked them in the living room. When we woke up, Georgia said, "Wow, so you wear Depends just like my grandpa does, huh?" Thereafter, Georgia would refer to her only as Grams or the old hag. The next incident, she used our bathroom and she stunk it up and used some old lady smelling cologne to mask the odor. It was actually very expensive perfume. Georgia sprayed about 70% of the bottle around the house. The final straw happened last weekend. Georgia came over for breakfast. At some point, she took my phone and sent her mother a message that read, "I can't stop thinking about you. I want to work things out and get back together." She deleted the text from my phone. Unbeknownst to me, she had her mother's phone on her, took a screenshot, then deleted the text on her mother's phone. Tuesday, she sent the screenshot to my girlfriend on her mother's phone and said, "I'm sorry, I think you need to know." She then deleted that text as well. This nearly caused her to leave, exactly what Georgia wanted. I immediately changed the locks. Before I could speak with Georgia, she showed up and couldn't get in. She called. We both were pissed off for different reasons. I told her she's not welcomed at our house until she has a serious attitude change. Her mother called, said I traumatized Georgia, claimed the text incident was a load of crap that never happened. Georgia admitted it. My ex said to be prepared to pay for her therapy because she'll need it after I put some tramp above my own child. In my opinion, OP's daughter needs therapy. It's unfortunate that her mother can't bring herself around to co-parent. What this little girl needs is a united front to stand up to her invasiveness and hostility. She clearly has a cup that needs filling up somewhere, but her aggression isn't going to do anything but push someone who cares away. Let's see what the community says. Cute Exploitation says, 17 is definitely old enough to know this behavior is unacceptable. Your solution was definitely harsh, but since your daughter wouldn't listen to reason, I can't see another way you could have stood up for your girlfriend. Besides, it's not like you've permanently banned Georgia from your house and from your life. You just set a clear, reasonable boundary. She is only welcome if she's able to be civil to all the residents of this house. I do think therapy might be beneficial for your daughter, though. Not because I believe she's traumatized from the event like your ex says, but because this hostility has to be coming from somewhere, and Georgia needs healthier mechanisms to cope with it. Luck of the Draw 18 says, not the a-hole. This is messed up, man. I'm sorry you're having to go through this. With the way your ex is talking to you, I wouldn't be surprised if she's encouraging Georgia to hurt you on purpose. Therapy might not be bad for her, though. Just make sure you're the one that sets it up and explain the situation to the therapist. Normal people don't act how she's acting, and it's clear the divorce took a toll on her. The a-hole Throw-wah-wah says, not the a-hole. I wouldn't be surprised if your ex is aware of all of this and encouraging your daughter to act this way. Therapy is a good idea, though. On Christmas Day, my in-laws came around to see my partner, son, and I. We had no idea they were coming around. They had never mentioned it, and we had told them that we were wanting our first Christmas as a family to be quiet, and just the three of us. We were planning on just hanging around the house, wearing PJs, eating takeout food, playing video games while son napped. As this was the plan, I had decided to do a heavy oiling on my hair and wrap it up in plastic wrap to keep the heat in. My partner is cool with me doing heavy oiling. Usually I wear it to bed and my hair wrapped in plastic wrap and my bonnet on top, and he had encouraged that I did a heavily oil during the day on Christmas. In the early afternoon, I went to the door and my in-laws were there. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, and brother-in-law. They had decided that we had already had the morning to laze about, and they had come around so son could open his presents. Son is 7 months old. He has no interest in presents and has no idea what is going on, which is why we were having such a low-key Christmas. They weren't impressed that we weren't dressed, but even less impressed that I had such oily hair. My mother-in-law took me aside in the kitchen and berated me for not taking pride in my appearance and for looking so sloppy when I should have been expecting them to turn up. I told mother-in-law that she should just be glad that we had clothes on, as we could have been naked as we had told people we wanted a quiet Christmas. She was offended that I had dared to suggest we could have been naked, especially with our son in the house. Partner thought it was funny that I had told her we could be naked and had suggested that next time when they turn up unannounced, that we answer the door naked. My in-laws weren't happy that we weren't dressed or expecting them. Yesterday, we both received texts from mother-in-law and brother-in-law having a go for the state we were in, and for me having oily hair that was wrapped in plastic wrap as I looked ridiculous. Mother-in-law expressed her disdain at the naked comment. Partner messaged them back and told them that we are allowed to dress how we like in our own home, and if I want to oil my hair, then I can. He also told them that from now on, we are a nudist home, and if they are going to be prudish about it, then they can arrange a time where they would like to meet us outside of the home. Mother-in-law has been messaging me separately, telling me that I look slobby and should be ashamed of myself, as partner shouldn't have to see me in that state. While partner is really supportive of what I do to take care of myself, it's got me wondering if this was an a-hole move on my part. Am I the a-hole for answering the door with my hair heavily oiled? Edit. My in-laws aren't being R towards me. They are white, as am I. I just have very dry, wavy hair thanks to my grandmother, who had very curly hair that was much drier than mine. She could go 3 weeks without washing her hair if she wanted. We don't have a doorbell or a camera, but after this, we've decided to get a Ring doorbell. We will also be changing our locks, as mother-in-law has a spare key. My partner is loving the comments about him being supportive. He's the most supportive partner I could have. He's been helping me learn to place firm boundaries with my own family. Following a string of behavior from brother-in-law in regards to things I do, I've decided to block him on everything. Something my partner is fully supporting, as brother-in-law is clearly not understanding what we are saying when we express how we feel about anything. With mother-in-law, we will be going low contact. Father-in-law has apologized for everyone's behavior, as he thought we had invited them, as mother-in-law said they had to be at ours by a certain time. That's exactly how unexpected visitors get treated, to anything from pajamas and oily hair to naked time. Adventurous B 541 says, "Not the a-hole. You're home and you didn't have plans, so you can do whatever you want. Your partner's support and responses are awesome though. Nice to see such a supportive partner on one of these for a change." Possible Olive 1533 says, "Not the a-hole. Why are they so shocked you weren't dressed up when they showed up unannounced? Does mother-in-law lounge around her home in full hair and makeup and black tie attire?" C Butterscotch 383 says, "Showing up unannounced with no invitations is tacky, especially after being advised you wanted quiet time. They're lucky you let them in." Am I, 35 female, the a-hole for not letting my ex-husband, 37 male, spend the night? We got divorced a year ago. When we got divorced, we jointly had 2 dogs and a cat. He had the cat before we even met, and was supposed to take her with him. He moved out and decided not to take the cat. The cat is now sick, and it's time to put her to sleep. I called him and asked if he would like to be there for the appointment, and he said he would, which I was fine with. Later, he texted me that he'd like to spend the night with her to say goodbye, and that he would put me up in a hotel so he could stay at my house with the cat to say his goodbyes. I responded that I'm actually seeing someone now, and we live together, and wasn't comfortable with him staying at our home, but that I would be happy to pack her things up and she could stay with him for a few days, or however long he needed for him to say his goodbyes. He said the drive, about 30 minutes, and staying somewhere new would be too stressful for her. I offered him to come over for a few hours and say his goodbyes, and he says I'm being unreasonable and keeping him from saying his proper goodbyes. Am I the a-hole? Additional info. The cat is nearly 27 years old. He had her before we met. We were together 15 years. I agreed he could have her in the divorce, but he decided at the last minute that moving would be too stressful for her. In reality, he likes to travel, and I don't think he wanted the responsibility of a cat who needs medicine 4 times a day. However, he has sent food for her consistently over the last year, and paid a large emergency vet bill without being asked. He thinks the 30 minutes drive to his new place and staying the night there would be too stressful for her. OP is definitely not in the wrong here. OP's ex has no right to stay at her home, let alone have the audacity to say he's going to put OP out to a hotel. I can see why he's an ex-husband. And let's see what the community says. Sabatica says, not the a-hole. Your ex should have taken the cat when you and he split ways. Asking you to leave him alone in your home while you have a stay at a hotel while he is there is laughable and inexcusable. You gave him an option, which he refused. That makes him the a-hole. Sweet Week 380 says, not the a-hole. This is some really strange behavior from your ex. Was he emotionally manipulative at all? Or the type to try and break down your boundaries? Because this reeks of something my ex would do before I had the courage to set proper boundaries. Say no and stick to it. He doesn't need a reason why. No means no, and if he doesn't like it, then he can come and take the cat to a hotel. Why in the world would he try to put you in a hotel and stay in your house? That sounds like someone with ulterior motives. Traveling Techie says, not the a-hole. My spidey sense is tingling. I found that when someone wants things to happen an exact way, and the reasons they give don't make sense, those aren't the real reasons. Maybe he wants to ransack or vandalize your home. Just guessing.